are good. I'll do these last three with you. So we multiply the top by the coefficient of the bottom, 5. Multiply the bottom by the opposite coefficient of the top, -3. So our new equation will be 15x minus 5y equals 90. 70, not 90. And then negative 15x minus 12y equals negative 36. So when we add these, the x's will cancel out. The y's will leave me with negative 17y, and that will be a positive 34, which when you divide by negative 17, that'll give you a negative 2. So I take that negative 2 and I plug it into the top one. That's going to be minus a negative 2. Be very careful plugging in that sign. That'll actually be 3x plus 2. That will leave you with 12, and x will be 4. So our final answer here, the point where these cross, is 4, -2. Again, we have two lines here. We're just trying to figure out at which point do they cross. We're looking for a coordinate for all of our answers. All right, for number 4, we will multiply the top by 5 and multiply the bottom by -1. So our new equation, 5x plus 5y equals -15. And then for the bottom, we're just multiplying by -1, so we are changing the signs. The x's will cancel out. We'll be left with 7y equals a positive 35, and y will equal 5. Some students really like elimination because you pretty much get straight to the final answer. Some students like to do substitution for every single one. I don't necessarily have a preference, but I do want you to know both, because if I ask you to use substitution, I expect you to use substitution. But if I ask you to use elimination, I expect you to use elimination. And you can always go back in the calculator, plug these two into y1 and y2, and do second trace 5 and see where these two lines intersect to see if you got the right answer. So we take this 5 and plug it back in. X plus 5 equals -3, and I would subtract 5, and that gives you -8. So your final answer there is -8, 5. And lastly, we will take the top equation, again, and multiply it by the leading coefficient of the bottom. Then we take the bottom equation and multiply it by the opposite of the top equation. So your two new lines will be 6x minus 6y equals a -6. Your bottom equation will be a -6x plus 3y equals positive 15. The x's will cancel out. You'll be left with -3y equals 9, and y equals -3. You take that -3. I'm going to plug it back into the bottom because it's going to be a little easier. And I'm plugging it back into the original equation. So 2x plus 3 equals -5. If I subtract 3, that will give me a -8. And x is -4. So my final answer here is -4, -3. So that is systems of equations with elimination. And if you got any questions,